When waitress Deanna Winters spots Michael Jordan walking into Appleton's restaurant on a busy Friday night, she does something unthinkable. Instead of serving the famous basketball legend, she flat-out refuses, putting her badly needed job at risk. Her shocked manager threatens to fire her immediately, but Deanna won't back down. She has a dark history with Jordan from 15 years ago that's burned into her memory. What Deanna doesn't know is that her 12-year-old son, Elijah, fighting a serious kidney disease in the hospital across town, is Jordan's biggest fan. His room is covered with Jordan posters, and he's counting the days until the basketball star visits the children's ward tomorrow. When Elijah discovers through a friend's video call that his mother just refused to serve his hero, worlds collide in ways no one could predict. Why would a struggling single mother risk everything by refusing to serve Michael Jordan? And what will happen when Jordan discovers the truth about her sick son who worships him? Deanna Winters's feet ached as she pushed through the swinging kitchen doors of Appleton's. The weight of her double shift pressed down on her shoulders like a heavy winter coat. 12 hours on her feet already, and still 3 more to go. "Order up for table 7, Chef Marco called out, sliding 2 steaming plates onto the counter. Deanna tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear and forced a smile. Every table meant tips. Every tip meant one step closer to paying this month's medical bills for Elijah. Her 12-year-old son's face flashed in her mind, giving her a second wind as she balanced the plates on her arm. "You hanging in there, Dee?" asked Tanya, another waitress who'd been at Appleton's even longer than Deanna's 3 years. "One foot in front of the other," Deanna replied, her standard answer these days. Appleton's wasn't just any restaurant in Portland. With its crystal chandeliers and white tablecloths, it attracted the wealthy and sometimes even celebrities. Tonight, the dining room hummed with the quiet conversations of people who didn't have to check their bank accounts before ordering dessert. Deanna delivered her orders and was wiping down a recently vacated table when she felt it. The shift in the restaurant's energy. Heads turned toward the entrance. Whispers rippled across the room like stones skipped across water. "Is that? It's him! Michael Jordan!" Deanna looked up just as Mr. Peterson, the restaurant manager, rushed past her. His usual stern expression had melted into an eager smile as he greeted the tall figure at the door. Even from across the room, there was no mistaking the basketball legend. Michael Jordan stood, confidently in a tailored suit, surrounded by 3 companions who seemed to orbit around him like planets around the sun. The restaurant staff buzzed with excitement. Jordan wasn't just famous. He was legendary. Deanna had heard her son talk about him enough to know that much. "All hands on deck," Mr. Peterson announced as he returned to the staff station. "Jordan and his party get VIP treatment. Winters, they're in your section." Deanna's heart sank. "Sir, Kevin's section is empty. Maybe he could—" "This isn't up for discussion," Mr. Peterson cut her off. "They requested the corner booth. That's your section today." Kevin, a young waiter who had been hovering nearby, looked disappointed. "I would have traded," he whispered as Mr. Peterson walked away. Deanna took a deep breath and smoothed her black apron. It was just another table. Just another customer. The fact that her son had Jordan's poster above his hospital bed didn't matter. Right now, she had a job to do. As she approached the table, Jordan laughed at something one of his companions said. The sound was rich and commanding, filling the space around him. Up close, he was even taller than she'd imagined. "Good evening, gentlemen," Deanna began, her professional smile firmly in place. "Welcome to Appleton's. My name is Deanna, and I'll be—" Jordan turned and their eyes met. In that split second, the restaurant around them seemed to fade away. Instead, Deanna was back in Chicago, back in her police uniform, back on that rainy night 15 years ago, when everything changed. The flash of recognition hit her like a physical blow. Her hand trembled, water spilling over the edge of the glass she was pouring. "Ma'am, you okay?" one of Jordan's companions asked. But Deanna couldn't speak. Her throat had closed up, memories flooding her mind. The nightclub, the chaos, her partner's scream, the silhouette of a tall, well-known figure disappearing into the night as her career crumbled around her. Jordan looked at her with mild curiosity, no recognition in his eyes. "I'm sorry," Deanna finally managed, setting down the water pitcher. Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. "I can't serve this table." One of Jordan's companions raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" "I said I can't serve this table." Her voice was stronger now, resolve hardening within her. "I'll have another server assist you immediately." Without waiting for a response, Deanna turned and walked away, feeling their confused stares burning into her back. The restaurant had gone quiet, dozens of eyes watching her retreat. Kevin intercepted her halfway to the kitchen. "What happened? Did you recognize Michael Jordan?" "Get Mr. Peterson," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Tell him I need someone else to take that table." Kevin hesitated, then nodded and hurried off. In the kitchen, Deanna pressed her back against the cool tile wall, trying to steady her breathing. She hadn't had a panic attack in years, but she recognized the signs. Racing heart, tight chest, the feeling that the floor was tilting beneath her. "Winters!" Mr. Peterson's voice cracked like a whip as he pushed through the kitchen doors. His face was flushed with anger. "What is the meaning of this? We have Michael Jordan, the Michael Jordan, sitting in our restaurant, and you refuse to serve him?" "I can't explain right now," Deanna said, straightening her shoulders. "But I have a personal reason. Please assign someone else." "Personal reason?" Peterson's voice rose an octave. "This is a professional establishment. We don't have personal reasons when it comes to serving customers, especially VIPs." Chef Marco and the kitchen staff pretended to focus on their cooking, but Deanna knew they were hanging on every word. "If you walk out on that table," Peterson continued, jabbing a finger toward the dining room, "you're walking out on your job, is that clear?" Deanna didn't waver. "Then I'll get my things." A stunned silence fell over the kitchen. Even Peterson seemed shocked that she hadn't backed down. "You're willing to throw away 3 years over this? Over serving one table?" he asked, his voice lower now. "Some things are more important than a job, Mr. Peterson." As if on cue, her phone vibrated in her pocket. Elijah's name flashed on the RA screen. Deanna's heart twisted. He was probably calling to tell her about his day, not knowing his mother might be unemployed in the next 5 minutes. "I need to take this," she said, stepping past Peterson. In the quiet of the staff break room, she answered the call. "Mom?" Elijah's voice was bright, despite everything he was going through. "Guess what? Nurse Mariah says Jordan might visit the children's hospital. Tomorrow! Can you believe it?" Deanna closed her eyes, the irony almost too much to bear. "That's great, honey." She tried to keep her voice steady. "You okay? You sound weird." "I'm fine." She glanced at the door, where she could hear Peterson talking to the staff. "Listen, Elijah, I might be coming home early today." "Why? Are you sick?" "No, just there's a situation at work. I'll tell you about it later." After hanging up, Deanna sat staring at her phone. The background was a photo of Elijah in his hospital room, smiling despite the tubes and machines. He was so strong, so much stronger than she felt right now. A soft knock on the door made her look up. Tanya stood there, concern etched on her face. "The whole restaurant's talking about it," Tanya said. "What happened out there, Dee?" Deanna shook her head. "It's complicated. From a long time ago. Peterson's furious. Jordan asked what the problem was." A chill ran through Deanna. "What did Peterson tell him?" "Nothing specific. Just apologized for the unprofessional behavior of a staff member." Tanya paused. "Kevin's serving them now. Peterson says he wants to see you before you leave." Deanna nodded, resigned to her fate. As Tanya left, she pulled out her phone again, opening her photo gallery to a folder she rarely looked at. Hidden among pictures of Elijah were a few from her past life. Deanna in her Chicago police uniform, standing proud at her academy graduation, before everything went wrong, before a chance encounter in a nightclub changed the course of her life. Now, 15 years later, that same man was sitting in her restaurant, probably enjoying Kevin's attentive service, completely unaware that he had destroyed her life once before. And if she wasn't careful, he might do it again. Elijah Winters set his phone down and stared at the basketball posters covering nearly every inch of wall space in his hospital room. The largest one showed Michael Jordan in his famous jumping pose, arms stretched wide like wings, seemingly floating in midair. The red Chicago Bulls jersey stood out against the white hospital walls. "Everything okay with your mom?" Nurse Mariah asked as she entered to check his vitals. Her curly hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her cartoon character Scrubs always made Elijah smile. "I think she's having a rough day at work," Elijah replied, his eyes still fixed on the Jordan poster. "She said she might come home early." "That's nice. More time with you," Mariah said, checking the IV line running into his arm. Elijah nodded, but worry crept into his thoughts. His mom never left work early. Not when she had a fever last winter. Not even when there was that big storm and buses stopped running. If she was coming home early, something was really wrong. "Your kidney numbers are looking better today," Mariah said, updating his chart. "Dr. Phillips will be happy when she sees these." "Does that mean I'm getting closer to going home?" Elijah asked hopefully. Mariah gave him a gentle smile. "One day at a time, kiddo. But this is definitely good news." Elijah had been in and out of Portland Children's Hospital since his kidneys started failing 8 months ago. At first, it was just for tests, then for treatments. Now he'd been an inpatient for almost 3 weeks, waiting for a matching donor. His room had become his second home, decorated with his basketball collection and school pictures. "Did you hear about Michael Jordan coming tomorrow?" Mariah asked, knowing it would lift his spirits. Elijah's face brightened immediately. "Yes, that's what I was calling Mom about. Do you think he'll visit this floor? Will he sign my jersey?" The excitement in his voice made him sound like any normal 12-year-old, not a boy who'd been fighting a serious illness for months. "I hear he always visits the kidney wing when he goes to children's hospitals," Mariah said with a wink. It was a little white lie, but seeing Elijah's eyes light up made it worthwhile. "Really?" Elijah reached under his pillow and pulled out a well-worn book. "Did you know he was cut from his high school basketball team?" but he didn't give up. That's what I love about him. He never gives up. Mariah sat on the edge of his bed, listening as Elijah launched into facts about Jordan's career, his scoring records, championship rings, and famous games. She'd heard these stories dozens of times, but Elijah's enthusiasm never dimmed. And when he had the flu during the '97 finals, Elijah continued, he still played and scored 38 points. Mom says that's what real strength looks like, doing what needs to be done even when you feel terrible. Your mom sounds pretty wise, Mariah said. She is, Elijah agreed, hugging the book to his chest. She works really hard, 2 jobs sometimes. Mariah glanced at the collection of Jordan memorabilia, shoes, trading cards, and even a piece of the United Center floor in a glass case. Where did all this Jordan stuff come from? It must have cost a fortune. Elijah's expression softened. My dad got most of it before he left. The room grew quiet. Mariah knew the basics from Elijah's file. Father left shortly after the diagnosis, missed child support payments, sporadic visits that became less and less frequent. He promised to come back when I get better, Elijah added, his voice smaller now. But Mom says we're doing fine on our own. Mariah checked his blood pressure, giving him a moment to collect himself. You know what I'm going to ask Jordan when I meet him? Elijah asked, bouncing back to his enthusiastic self. I'm going to ask him what it feels like to fly. Because when he jumps, it looks like he's flying, doesn't it? It sure does, Mariah agreed, relieved by the subject change. Now, it's time for your medicine. And then some rest. You need your strength if you're meeting a legend tomorrow. After taking his pills, Elijah reached for his notebook, a gift from his mother on the first day of his hospital stay. On the cover, written in her neat handwriting, were the words, "Champions, keep notes." Inside, he kept a basketball journal with statistics, drawings, and thoughts about his favorite players. The latest entries were all about Jordan's visit to Portland. As Mariah dimmed the lights, Elijah scribbled by the glow of his bedside lamp. Tomorrow might be the best day ever. Just like Mom always says, never give up, because you never know what amazing thing is waiting around the corner. The hospital grew quieter as evening approached. Down the hall, younger kids were settled in for movie night, their laughter occasionally drifting into Elijah's room. But he preferred the quiet, using the time to watch basketball highlights on his tablet. Tonight's video was Game 6 of the 1998 NBA Finals, Jordan's last game with the Bulls, and the famous last shot. Elijah knew every move, every pass, but he still held his breath when Jordan stole the ball from Karl Malone with less than 20 seconds left. His phone buzzed with a text from his best friend Toby. Going to Appleton's for dinner. Dad says it's super fancy. Wish you were here. Elijah smiled sadly. He missed normal things like going to restaurants. His mom had promised to take him to Appleton's to celebrate when he got better. She'd been working there since they moved to Portland 3 years ago. He texted back, "Take pictures of the fancy food." As he set his phone down, a strange feeling washed over him, like someone walking over his grave, as his grandma used to. Say! He glanced at his Jordan poster, at the determined look in the basketball star's eyes. What would you do if you were stuck in a hospital instead of soaring through the air? Elijah whispered to the poster. Would you give up? The answer came not from the poster, but from what his mother had taught him about Jordan's mindset. Never give up. Fight through. Find a way. Elijah reached for his notebook again and wrote, Like MJ, I will not be defined by setbacks, but by comebacks." He was about to close the notebook when his phone lit up with another text from Toby. This one made his heart stop. "Dude, Michael Jordan just walked into the restaurant. For real?" Elijah stared at the message in disbelief. Jordan was at Appleton's, where his mom worked? Right now? His fingers flew across the screen. "Are you serious? Take a picture." Seconds later, a blurry photo appeared, distant but unmistakable. Michael Jordan in the flesh, being seated at a corner table. Elijah's mind raced. His mom had called saying she was coming home early. Jordan was at her restaurant. These two facts collided in his head, not making sense together. Unless... His phone rang. Toby was video calling. "Can you believe it?" Toby whispered excitedly when Elijah answered. The phone camera shook as Toby tried to discreetly point it toward Jordan's table. "My dad says he's in town for some charity event." "Is my mom there?" Elijah asked urgently. "Can you see her?" "I don't know what she looks..." "Wait, is she the lady with the reddish hair? There's some drama happening." The manager looks mad. Toby turned the camera, and for a brief moment, Elijah saw his mother's profile as she walked quickly away from Jordan's table. "What's happening?" Elijah asked, sitting up straighter, his heart pounding. "I don't know, but that waitress just refused to serve Michael Jordan. Everyone's whispering about it. My dad says she could get fired for..." Elijah ended the call abruptly, his hands shaking. His mother, the same woman who had put up Jordan posters in his room, who had saved for months to buy him Jordan sneakers for his birthday, who knew how much meeting Jordan tomorrow would mean to him, had just refused to serve his hero. Something was very wrong, and somehow Elijah knew it was connected to that night his mother never talked about. The reason they had left Chicago when he was 9. The reason she flinched whenever anyone mentioned her old job. Elijah looked at his Jordan poster with newber eyes, wondering for the first time if there was more to his hero than he knew. Deanna sat alone in Appleton's break room, her hands still trembling. 15 years had passed since that night in Chicago, but seeing Jordan's face up close had brought it all rushing back. The rain-slicked streets, the flashing lights, the sound of her partner's voice crying out in pain. She closed her eyes, and suddenly she wasn't Deanna Winters, waitress at an upscale Portland restaurant. She was Officer Deanna Mercer, badge W6729, Chicago PD, working the night shift in a district known for its nightlife. 15 years ago, Chicago dispatched to Unit 14. "We've got a disturbance at Club Zenith on West Madison. Possible celebrity involvement." Deanna glanced at her partner, Ray Donovan, as he reached for the radio. Unit 14 responding. ETA, 3 minutes. At 25, Deanna was one of the youngest female officers in her district and determined to prove herself. Ray was a 20-year veteran who'd taken her under his wing when others had kept their distance. "Celebrity, huh?" Ray said as he flipped on the siren. $10 says it's another basketball player thinking rules don't apply when you can dunk. "You're just bitter because you're 5'8", Deanna joked, bracing herself as they took a corner. Rain pounded on the roof of their patrol car as they pulled up to Club Zenith. The exclusive nightclub was known for its high-profile clientele and strict door policy. Tonight, a small crowd had gathered outside despite the downpour. Inside, the music was deafening. The manager, a nervous man in a shiny suit, led them through the packed dance floor toward the VIP section. "He's a regular here," the manager shouted over the music. "Never caused problems before, but tonight he's had too much to drink." When the bartender cut him off, he got upset. The VIP section was separated from the main club by velvet ropes and a burly security guard who nodded at their uniforms and stepped aside. Inside, a group of well-dressed men surrounded a table covered with empty bottles. "That's him," the manager pointed discreetly. Deanna couldn't see clearly through the crowd, but she caught a glimpse of a tall figure in designer clothes, his back to them as he argued with someone. "Sir," Ray called out, his voice carrying the authority of 2 decades on the force, "we need to have a word." The tall man turned, and Deanna caught her first glimpse of his face. Handsome, with an eye distinctive look she recognized from billboards and TV commercials. The sports star's eyes were glassy, his movements slightly uncoordinated. "Is there a problem, officer?" one of his companions asked, stepping forward. "We were just leaving." "The establishment has asked your friend to leave," Ray explained calmly. "We're here to make sure that happens without incident." "Do you know who he is?" another man from the entourage demanded. Ray's expression didn't change. "Don't care if he's the Pope. Rules apply to everyone." That's when things escalated. The E2 celebrity took offense. Words were exchanged, and suddenly, the VIP section erupted into chaos. Someone shoved Ray. Glass broke. The crowd surged. Deanna found herself separated from her partner by a wall of bodies. She heard Ray call her name, followed by a crash and a cry of pain. By the time she fought her way through, Ray was on the ground, clutching his knee, his face contorted in agony. The celebrity and his entourage were already being whisked out through a back exit. "Officer down!" Deanna radioed, kneeling beside her partner. "I need an ambulance at Club Zenith." Later, at the hospital, the doctor's words sealed Ray's fate. "The ligaments are completely torn. With this kind of damage, he'll never return to active duty." Present day, Portland. A knock on the break room door yanked Deanna back to the present. Mr. Peterson stood in the doorway, his arms crossed. "I need an explanation, Winters," he said, his voice calmer now but no less stern. "A real one." "What? Just happened out there?" Deanna straightened her shoulders. "I have history with Mr. Jordan. It's personal." "Personal?" Peterson scoffed. "This is a business. We don't do personal here." "Then consider this my resignation," Deanna said firmly, reaching for her bag. "I'll pick up my final check next week." Peterson's face reddened. "You're throwing away a steady job over some grudge? In this economy? With your situation?" The implied mention of Elijah's medical bills hit Deanna like a slap. Peterson knew she needed this job desperately. He was counting on that need to force her compliance. "Some things matter more than money," she replied, her voice steady despite the fear swirling in her stomach. Before Peterson could respond, Tanya appeared in the doorway. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, looking uncomfortable, "but Mr. Jordan is asking to speak with management about the situation." Peterson's eyes widened. "He's complaining?" "Actually, no," Tanya said, glancing at Deanna. "He said he wants to understand what happened. He seems curious, not angry." Peterson straightened his tie. "Tell him I'll be right there." Once Tanya left, he turned back to Deanna. "Stay here. This isn't over." Alone again, Deanna pulled out her phone and opened the photo gallery app, scrolling to a folder labeled Chicago. She rarely looked at these pictures. The memories were too painful. But now, she needed to remember. There she was in her police uniform, standing proudly beside Ray at their district's annual picnic. Ray with his arm around her shoulders, calling her the daughter he never had. Ray in his hospital bed, his career ended because she couldn't reach him in time. After the incident, the department had pressured her to drop it. The celebrity involved was too powerful, had too many connections. When she refused, filing formal complaints and pushing for charges, things got ugly. Internal Affairs suddenly found inconsistencies in her reports. Fellow officers stopped talking to her. The brass suggested she take a desk job for her own good. She'd held out for 3 months before finally resigning, her reputation in tatters. 2 years later, when Elijah's father left them, she'd moved to Portland for a fresh start, carrying nothing from Chicago except her bitter memories and a sleeping child. Now Michael Jordan sat just 30 feet away, probably enjoying his meal, completely unaware of how he'd destroyed her life, or perhaps not caring. Celebrities like him never faced consequences. They moved through the world cushioned by money and fame, while people like Ray paid the price. Her phone buzzed with a text from Elijah. "Mom, is Michael Jordan really at your restaurant right now?" Deanna's heart sank. How did he know? Then another text appeared. "Toby's there with his parents. He showed me." She closed her eyes. Of course, Elijah's friend Toby, whose parents could afford to dine at places like Appleton's regularly. The universe really had a cruel sense of humor. Tonight, before she could reply, her phone rang. Elijah was calling. She took a deep breath and answered. "Mom?" His voice sounded confused, hurt. "Toby said you wouldn't serve Michael Jordan. That can't be right, can it? You know how much I—" "It's complicated, sweetheart," Deanna cut in, not ready to explain 15 years of pain and injustice to her son over the phone. "There's a history between us, from Chicago." "What history? You never said anything. All these years I've had his posters, his shoes. You bought me his biography for Christmas." Deanna winced at the accusation in his voice. I know. I didn't want my issues to affect you. I'll explain everything when I get home, I promise." "But Mom, he's supposed to visit the hospital tomorrow. What if he recognizes you? What if he doesn't come because of whatever happened?" The worry in Elijah's voice broke Deanna's heart. For years, she'd kept her past locked away to protect him. Now her worlds were colliding in the worst possible way. "Elijah, listen to me. Nothing will stop Jordan from visiting the hospital. This is between him and me. It won't affect you." There was a long pause on the other end. "Are you sure?" Elijah finally asked, his voice smaller. "Now, I'm sure," Deanna said, hoping she sounded more confident than she felt. "Try to get some rest. I'll be there soon." After hanging up, Deanna leaned back against the wall and closed her eyes. The weight of her decision pressed down on her. If she walked out now, she'd lose this job. Finding another one. With the flexible hours she needed for Elijah's care would be nearly impossible. But if she stayed, she'd have to serve the man who had cost Ray his career and her badge. The break room door opened, and Tanya stood there, her expression unreadable. "He's asking for you," she said quietly. "Jordan wants to speak with you personally." Deanna's breath caught in her throat. "What?" "He told Peterson he thinks he might know you from somewhere. He wants to talk to you in private." The past, it seemed, wasn't done with Deanna Winters just yet. Elijah stared at his phone after his mother hung up. A mix of emotions swirled inside him: confusion, disappointment, and a growing sense that there was much more to this story than his mother was telling him. "Everything okay?" Nurse Mariah asked, poking her head into his room. "I don't know," Elijah admitted. "My mom just refused to serve Michael Jordan at her restaurant." Mariah's eyebrows shot up. "Wow, that's unexpected." "She said there's some history between them from Chicago," Elijah explained, fidgeting with his IV tube. "But that doesn't make sense. She's never mentioned knowing him." Mariah sat on the edge of his bed. "Adults can be complicated, Elijah. Sometimes they keep things to themselves to protect the people they love. But why would she need to protect me from knowing she met Michael Jordan?" Elijah glanced at the IBTU basketball posters covering his walls. "She knows how much I admire him." "Maybe that's exactly why," Mariah suggested gently. Before Elijah could respond, his phone buzzed with another video call from Toby. He hesitated, then answered. "Dude," Toby whispered, his face filling the screen. "Something weird is happening. Your mom disappeared into the back, and now Jordan's asking about her." "What?" Elijah sat up straighter. "What's he saying?" Toby glanced around to make sure no one was watching him film. "I can't hear everything, but—" He asked the manager who she was. He looked, I don't know, thoughtful? Not mad, like you'd expect. "Can you get closer?" "No way. My parents would kill me if they caught me spying." Toby paused, then added, "Wait, the IO manager just went to the back. I think he's getting your mom." Elijah's heart raced. What would happen when his mother faced Jordan again? Would she tell him about whatever happened in Chicago? Would it ruin Jordan's hospital visit tomorrow? "I should go," Toby whispered suddenly. "Dad's giving me the look." The video cut off abruptly. Elijah dropped his phone on the bed, his mind spinning. Part of him wanted to call his mom back immediately and demand answers. Another part was afraid of what those answers might be. He looked at the Jordan poster, above his bed, the one where Jordan held 6 championship trophies, looking invincible. Elijah had always seen Jordan as a hero, someone who overcame every obstacle through sheer determination. But what if there was another side to him? A side his mother had seen that he hadn't? His gaze drifted to the small framed photo on his nightstand. Elijah, at age 9, sitting on his mother's shoulders at a Chicago park, both of them laughing. It was taken just weeks before they left for Portland. Before his mother changed from Officer Mercer to Ms. Winters. Before she stopped talking about her old job. Elijah reached for his tablet and opened a search engine. His fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment before he typed, "Michael Jordan Chicago Scandal Police." Thousands of results appeared, but none seemed relevant. Articles about Jordan's gambling, his baseball career, his divorce, nothing involving the police or someone named Mercer. He tried another search. Chicago police officer injured nightclub celebrity Tuan Tsunaten. Again, nothing. That seemed connected to his mother or Jordan. Whatever had happened between them wasn't something that made headlines. Or perhaps it had been covered up, like in the detective shows his mom sometimes watched. Elijah's phone rang again. This time, it was his mother. "Mom?" he answered immediately. "What's happening?" "Toby said Jordan was asking about you." There was a pause before his mother replied, her voice tense. "Elijah, I need you to listen. Carefully, I'm going to speak with Mr. Jordan privately." "Why? What are you going to say to him?" "I don't know yet," she admitted, "but I need to face this. It's been 15 years, and I'm not running anymore." Elijah swallowed hard. Mom, whatever happened, it won't change anything about tomorrow, right? He'll still visit the hospital? Another pause, longer this time. I can't promise that, sweetheart, but I'll do my best. Please don't tell him I'm here, Elijah blurted out. If he knows you're my mom, and you two have some kind of problem… Elijah. Please, Mom. This might be my only chance to meet him. Don't take that away. The line went quiet, and for a moment, Elijah thought they'd been disconnected. Then he heard his mother sigh. I won't mention you, she finally said. I'll keep it between him and me. Thank you, Elijah whispered, relief washing over him. I love you. I love you too, more than anything. After they hung up, Elijah lay back against his pillows, exhausted. The excitement of potentially meeting his hero tomorrow was now tangled with worry about what would happen between Jordan and his mother tonight. His phone buzzed with a text from Toby. Your mom just went into a private dining room with Jordan and closed the door. What do you think is happening? Elijah didn't reply. Instead, he closed his eyes and tried to imagine what his mother might be saying to Michael Jordan right now. Was she confronting him about whatever happened in Chicago? Was she telling him how he'd ruined her career? Or was she simply explaining why she couldn't serve his table? So many questions swirled in Elijah's head. Why had his mother never told him about her history with Jordan? Why had she encouraged his admiration for someone she apparently despised? And what would happen when Jordan visited the hospital tomorrow? The thought sent a jolt of panic through him. What if his mother was right now telling Jordan exactly where to find her son tomorrow? What if Jordan decided to skip the hospital visit entirely because of their confrontation? Without thinking, Elijah threw off his blankets and swung his legs over the side of the bed. The room spun slightly, a side effect of his medication, but he steadied himself on the nightstand. What are you doing? Nurse Mariah asked, returning with his evening medication. I need to get to Appleton's, Elijah said, his voice stronger than he felt. My mom needs me. Whoa, hold on there. Mariah set down the medication cup and gently guided him back onto the hurt bed. You can't just leave the hospital. Your mom will be fine. You don't understand, Elijah insisted. If she and Jordan argue, he might not come tomorrow. This might be my only chance. Mariah studied his face for a long moment. This really means that much to you? Elijah nodded. More than anything. Let me make a call, Mariah said after a pause. But no promises, okay? As Mariah stepped into the hallway with her phone, Elijah grabbed his Jordan jersey from the drawer beside his bed. If he was going to meet his hero tonight, instead of tomorrow, he wanted to be ready. He just hoped he wasn't too late. Michael Jordan wasn't used to being refused service. Throughout his legendary career and the years that followed, he'd grown accustomed to special treatment. The best tables, VIP access, people eager to please. But something about the waitress's reaction intrigued rather than offended him. Is everything all right with our server? Jordan asked the restaurant manager who had rushed over, apologizing profusely. I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Jordan. Deanna, Ms. Winters, is dealing with a personal matter. I've assigned Kevin to your table. He's our finest server. Jordan nodded, but his eyes followed the auburn-haired waitress as she disappeared into the back of the restaurant. Something about her seemed familiar, though he couldn't place it. Do you think he recognized her? Marcus Wesley, Jordan's longtime friend and business partner, asked quietly after the manager left. Who? Jordan turned back to the table. The waitress, the way she looked at you, like she'd seen a ghost. Jordan shook his head. I meet thousands of people every year. Can't remember them all. But as Kevin served their appetizers with nervous enthusiasm, Jordan's mind kept drifting back to the waitress's face. The flash of recognition in her eyes wasn't the usual star-struck reaction he encountered daily. It was something else. Something that looked almost like fear or anger. We should consider leaving, suggested Thomas Powell, Jordan's security consultant. This kind of situation can escalate. Someone could be setting up a scene for social media. It's fine, Jordan replied, taking a sip of water. The food here is supposed to be excellent. But halfway through the main course, Jordan found himself still distracted. The restaurant hummed with energy around them, other diners stealing, glances at his table while pretending not to stare. Marcus, Jordan said suddenly. That waitress. What was her name again? Deanna something. The manager mentioned it. Deanna. Jordan repeated the name, trying to place it. From Chicago, maybe? Marcus raised an eyebrow. You think you know her from back home? Jordan tapped his fingers on the table thoughtfully. Not sure, but I'd like to find out. Thomas frowned. Michael, we have the hospital visit tomorrow morning, then the charity event. We don't have time for... It'll just take a minute. Jordan cut him off with the same decisive tone he'd used countless times on the court. He signaled to Kevin, who practically sprinted to their table. Yes, Mr. Jordan? The waitress who was originally assigned to our table, Deanna, is she still here? Kevin glanced nervously toward the back of the restaurant. Yes, sir. She's in the break room. Mr. Peterson is deciding whether to... That is, they're having a meeting. She might lose her job over this? Jordan asked, his brow furrowing. Kevin hesitated, then nodded. Could you ask Mr. Peterson to come over? I'd like a word. As Kevin hurried away, Marcus leaned forward. What are you thinking, MJ? I'm not sure yet, Jordan admitted. Just following my instincts. The manager appeared almost instantly, smoothing his tie and offering another round of apologies. No need for that, Jordan said. I'd like to speak with Deanna privately. Mr. Peterson blinked rapidly. Sir, I assure you, her behavior doesn't reflect our establishment's standards. If she's offended you in any way... She hasn't, Jordan said firmly. I just want to talk with her. Is there a private space we could use? Of course. The wine room is empty at the moment. Peterson looked confused but didn't dare refuse. Should I have security present? Jordan almost laughed. That won't be necessary. After Peterson left to fetch Deanna, Thomas shook his head disapprovingly. This is a bad idea, Michael. What if she's looking for publicity, or has some kind of grudge? Then I'd like to know what it is, Jordan said simply. Marcus studied his friend's face. You think you know her from somewhere? Jordan nodded slowly. There's something. I can't quite place it, but it'll come to me. Throughout his career, Jordan had developed a near-photographic memory for people who crossed his path. It had served him well both on and off the court. If this waitress had encountered him before, he'd figure it out. Mr. Jordan, Peterson returned, looking nervous. The wine room is ready. Ms. Winters will meet you there momentarily. Jordan stood, straightening his custom suit jacket. I won't be long. The wine room was small but elegant, with walls lined with temperature-controlled cases displaying expensive bottles. A round table sat in the center with 2 chairs. Jordan chose the one facing the door and waited. Moments later, the door opened and Deanna entered. Up close, she looked tired, The kind of bone-deep weariness Jordan recognized in people working multiple jobs, but she also carried herself with a quiet dignity that suggested she wasn't intimidated by his celebrity. "Ms. Winters," Jordan began, "please have a seat." "I prefer to stand, thank you." Her voice was steady, controlled. Jordan nodded, respecting her choice. "I get the feeling we've met before." Deanna's expression remained neutral. "We have. Recently? 15 years ago. In Chicago." Jordan studied her face more carefully, searching his memory. Chicago. 15 years ago. He'd been retired from basketball by then, focusing on business ventures, making occasional public appearances. "I'm sorry, but I meet so many people," he admitted. "Could you refresh my memory?" Something flashed in Deanna's eyes. Disappointment, perhaps, or confirmation of some long-held belief. "Club Zenith," she said flatly. "I was Officer Mercer then." The name triggered something in Jordan's memory. A police officer? He frowned, trying to connect the dots. "There was an incident," Deanna continued, her voice tightening. "My partner was injured, seriously injured. Career-ending injured." Jordan's frown deepened. "At Club Zenith? I remember going there occasionally, but I don't recall any incident with police." "You were there that night," Deanna insisted. "You had too much to drink. When they cut you off, you got angry. Things escalated." Jordan shook his head slowly, his confusion genuine. "Ms. Winters, Officer Mercer, I've never been involved in any altercation with police. Not at Club Zenith, not anywhere." "I saw you," Deanna said, her composure cracking slightly. "Maybe not clearly, but I recognized you. Everyone did. The department covered it up to protect you, and my partner paid the price. I paid the price." Jordan leaned forward, his expression serious. "I assure you, if I had been involved in something that resulted in an officer's injury, I would remember it, and I would have made it." "Right." For a moment, they stared at each other across the small room, the basketball legend and the former police officer, each convinced of their own truth. The Maui silence was broken by a commotion outside the door. Raised voices, then a young woman's urgent tone. "He's not supposed to be out of the hospital. Please, you have to understand. He insisted." Jordan glanced toward the door, but Deanna had gone rigid, her face suddenly pale. "Elijah," she whispered, and lunged for the door just as it swung open. 15 minutes earlier, Elijah had made up his mind. He couldn't just lie in his hospital bed, waiting for news. He needed to get to Appleton's before his mother ruined his one chance to meet his hero. "Absolutely not," Nurse Mariah said firmly after returning to his room. "I can't just take you out of the hospital. I'd lose my job." "Please," Elijah begged. "My mom needs me. I'm stable right now. You said so yourself. We'd only be gone for an hour." Mariah shook her head. "It's not that simple, Elijah. There are protocols, paperwork. Your mom would have to sign you out." "Then call her," Elijah suggested desperately. "She's a bit busy at the moment, don't you think?" Elijah slumped back against his pillows, defeat washing over him. Then an idea struck. "What about my grandma? She's my emergency contact. Could she sign me out?" Mariah hesitated. "Technically, yes, but—" "I'll call her right now," Elijah said, already reaching for his phone. "She only lives 10 minutes away. She can meet us at Appleton's. Elijah, I don't think... Please, Mariah. Elijah's voice cracked. You know how much this means to me. I might never get another chance to meet Jordan. Mariah studied his face for a long moment, then sighed heavily. Call your grandmother. I'll talk to her. 5 minutes later, Mariah had Elijah's grandmother, Vivian, on the phone. Mrs. Winters, it's Nurse Mariah from Portland Children's. Elijah is asking to leave the hospital temporarily to meet his mother at Appleton's restaurant. She paused, listening. Yes, he's stable at the moment, but I must emphasize, this isn't standard procedure. Elijah watched anxiously as Mariah explained the situation, carefully leaving out the part about Michael Jordan. After what felt like an eternity, she handed the phone back to him. Your grandmother says she'll meet us at the restaurant, Mariah said, but she's not happy about it, and neither am I. If your vitals change at all, we're coming straight back. Deal! Elijah nodded eagerly. Deal! Getting ready wasn't easy. His legs felt wobbly after being in bed so long, and he had to disconnect from some of the monitoring equipment, which set off alarms at the nurse's station. Mariah quickly silenced them, explaining to her supervisor that she was taking Elijah for a short walk around the ward. A half-truth that made Elijah feel guilty, but not enough to change his mind. I can't believe I'm doing this, Mariah muttered as she helped him into a wheelchair. This is completely against protocol. You're the best nurse ever, Elijah said, putting on his Jordan jersey over his hospital gown. Mariah rolled her eyes, but couldn't suppress a smile. Don't push it, kid. They took the service elevator down to avoid questions and exited through a side entrance where hospital staff parked. Mariah's small blue Toyota was waiting in the staff lot. I'm breaking about a dozen rules right now, she said, as she helped Elijah into the passenger seat. If anything happens to you... It won't, Elijah promised. I feel fine, better than fine. That wasn't entirely true. His head felt light, and there was a familiar ache in his lower back that usually signaled his kidneys were struggling. But he wasn't about to mention that now. The drive to Appleton's took just 15 minutes. As they pulled into the parking lot, Elijah spotted his grandmother's silver sedan already waiting. Vivian Winters, a stern-looking woman. In her 60s, with the same auburn hair as his mother, stood beside it, with her arms crossed. This is a terrible idea, were her first words as Mariah helped Elijah out of the car. What's so important that you had to leave the hospital? Mom needs me, Elijah said simply, knowing his grandmother wouldn't understand about Jordan. Vivian's expression softened slightly. Deanna called me in tears earlier, said something happened at work. Is that what this is about? Elijah nodded, avoiding her eyes. It wasn't a complete lie. His mother did need him, just not in the way his grandmother thought. Let's get you inside then, Vivian said, taking over the wheelchair from Mariah. You're looking pale. Inside Appleton's, the hostess's eyes widened at the sight of a boy in a wheelchair wearing a hospital gown under a basketball jersey. Do you have a reservation? We're here to see Deanna Winters, Vivian explained. She works here. It's a family emergency. The hostess hesitated. Ms. Winters is in a private meeting right now. She lowered her voice. With Michael Jordan. Elijah's heart leaped. He was still here. That's who I need to see. The confusion on the hostess's face would have been comical under different circumstances. You need to see Michael Jordan? He's Deanna's son, Vivian explained, clearly annoyed by the delay. Where is she? The wine room, but I can't just... Elijah didn't wait for her to finish. With a surge of adrenaline, he pushed himself out of the wheelchair and started walking toward the back of the restaurant, using tables for support. His grandmother called after him, but he kept moving, ignoring the stares from other diners. A waiter pointed him toward a hallway. When he asked for the wine room, his legs felt heavier with each step, and the ache in his back was intensifying. But Elijah pressed on. He could hear Mariah and his grandmother hurrying behind him, Mariah urgently explaining that he shouldn't be exerting himself. When he finally reached the wine room door, Elijah paused, suddenly uncertain. What would he say? What if Jordan was angry about his mother's behavior? What if his mother was angry at him for leaving the hospital? He took a deep breath and reached for the door handle just as voices rose on the other side. I saw you, his mother was saying, her voice strained. Maybe not clearly, but I recognized you. I assure you, came a deeper voice that Elijah instantly recognized from interviews and commercials. If I had been involved in something that resulted in an officer's injury, I would remember it. Elijah's hand tightened on the door handle. They were talking about what happened in Chicago. This was his chance to understand everything. Behind him, Mariah called out, "He's not supposed to be out of the hospital. Please, you have to understand," he insisted. Elijah pushed the door open, and suddenly he was face to face with both his mother and Michael Jordan. His mother's eyes widened in shock. "Elijah," she whispered, lunging toward him. But it was too late. The room started spinning, dark spots dancing across Elijah's vision. His knees buckled, and he felt himself falling. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was Michael Jordan moving with the same swift reflexes that had made him a legend on the basketball court, reaching out to catch him before he hit the floor. "Elijah!" Deanna's scream echoed through the wine room as she rushed forward, but Jordan was faster. His strong arms caught the boy's limp body before it hit the floor. "Who is this?" Jordan asked, carefully lowering Elijah to the ground. "My son," Deanna said, dropping to her knees beside them. "He's supposed to be in the hospital. He has kidney disease." Nurse Mariah pushed into the room, medical training taking over. "Lay him flat. Give him space." She pressed her fingers to Elijah's wrist, counting silently. "His pulse is rapid but steady. He's just fainted." Deanna cradled her son's head in her lap, brushing his hair from his forehead. "Elijah, can you hear me? Wake up, sweetheart." Elijah's eyelids fluttered, then opened slowly. "Mom?" he mumbled, disoriented. Then his gaze shifted to the tall figure kneeling beside his mother. "Michael Jordan?" For a moment, the room was silent. Jordan looked from the boy to Deanna, recognition dawning on his face. "Your son is a fan." It wasn't a question. Jordan had spotted the jersey the moment Elijah entered the room. "The biggest," Deanna admitted softly. Jordan's expression softened as he addressed Elijah. "Hey there, young man. That was quite an entrance." Elijah tried to sit up, but Mariah gently pushed him back down. "Stay still for a minute. Your body needs time." "I can't believe it's really you," Elijah said, his voice weak but filled with awe. "I've watched all your games, even the Wizards ones." A small smile tugged at Jordan's lips. "Not my finest hours. Still better than most players' best days," Elijah countered. Outside the wine room, a small crowd had gathered. Restaurant staff peered in anxiously, while Jordan's security consultant tried to keep everyone back. "We should get him back to the hospital," Mariah said to Deanna. His grandmother is calling an ambulance. At the mention of an ambulance, Elijah's face fell. No, please. I'm fine now. Really? You're not fine, Deanna said firmly. You collapsed, Elijah. You shouldn't have left the hospital in the first place. I had to, Elijah insisted, his eyes darting between his mother and Jordan. I heard you two were talking, and I was afraid. He trailed off, suddenly looking very young and vulnerable. Afraid of what? Jordan asked gently. Elijah swallowed hard. That you wouldn't visit the children's hospital tomorrow because of whatever happened between you and Mom. Understanding passed across Jordan's face. He looked at Deanna, then back at Elijah. Is that where you're staying? Portland Children's? Elijah nodded. 4th floor, kidney wing. I see. Jordan's tone was thoughtful. Well, I can't have my biggest fan thinking I'd skip a hospital visit, can I? Hope bloomed on Elijah's pale face. So, you'll still come? I'll be there, Jordan promised. But right now, we need to get you back to the hospital. Commotion at the door interrupted them as Marcus Wesley pushed through, followed by Thomas Powell and Mr. Peterson. Michael, we should go, Thomas urged. The media will be all over this if word gets out. Jordan held up a hand, silencing his security consultant. I'm not going anywhere until this young man is safely on his way back to the hospital. He turned to Marcus. Get the car ready. We'll take them ourselves. What? Thomas looked alarmed. Michael, that's not necessary. It is to me, Jordan said with finality. Deanna stared at him in disbelief. After 15 years of blaming this man for destroying her career, her life, here he was offering to help her son. Mr. Jordan, you don't have to. Please, he cut her off. Call me Michael. He turned to Mariah. Can he be moved to a car? Or should we wait for the ambulance? Mariah hesitated, assessing Elijah's condition. His color is better. If we move carefully and go directly to the hospital, it should be fine. It would probably be faster than waiting for an ambulance. Then it's settled, Jordan said, standing up with the air of someone used to making quick decisions. Marcus, bring the car around back. Less chance of being seen. As Marcus hurried out, Deanna found herself stuck in a surreal moment. Her son lying on the floor of an upscale restaurant's wine room with Michael Jordan taking charge of the situation. The same man she'd spent years hating was now organizing her son's medical care. Can you walk? Jordan asked Elijah. The boy tried to stand but wobbled, dangerously. Without hesitation, Jordan scooped him up as if he weighed nothing. I've got you. This is insane, Deanna whispered to Mariah as they followed Jordan toward the restaurant's back exit. An hour ago, I was refusing to serve him, and now he's carrying my son. Life is strange that way, Mariah replied. But right now, let's just focus on getting Elijah back to the hospital. Outside, a sleek black SUV with tinted windows pulled up to the service entrance. Marcus jumped out to open the back door, and Jordan carefully placed Elijah inside. I'll ride with him, Deanna said, climbing in beside her son. Mariah followed, medical bag in hand. I should stay with him too. Jordan nodded and got into the front passenger seat while Marcus took the wheel. Thomas looked like he wanted to protest, but eventually got into a second car with the rest of Jordan's entourage. As they pulled away from Appleton's, an uncomfortable silence filled the SUV. Elijah lay with his head in his mother's lap, looking simultaneously embarrassed and thrilled. He was in Michael Jordan's car. His hero was taking him to the hospital. "Mom," he whispered, tugging at Deanna's sleeve. "You never told me you knew Michael Jordan." Deanna's throat tightened. "It's complicated, sweetheart." "What Officer Mercer means," Jordan said from the front seat, "is that we have a misunderstanding to clear up." Elijah's eyes widened. "Officer Mercer?" Deanna sighed. There was no avoiding it now. "That was my name in Chicago, before we moved to Portland. I was a police officer." "You were a cop?" Elijah looked stunned. "You never told me that. Why not?" "It wasn't a time in my life I like to remember," Deanna admitted. "Things ended badly." Jordan glanced back at them. "Your mother thinks I was involved in an incident that injured her partner, but I wasn't there that night." "Then who was it?" Elijah asked, looking confused. "That's what we need to figure out," Jordan replied. "But first, we need to get you medical attention." The rest of the drive passed in tense silence. Elijah's eyes kept drifting closed, though he fought to stay, awake, afraid his unexpected time with Jordan would end. At the hospital, Jordan's presence caused an immediate stir. Nurses, doctors, and patients stopped to stare as the basketball legend walked through the emergency entrance with Marcus. Close, behind, while Elijah was rushed to an examination room on a gurney. "I've called ahead to Dr. Phillips," Mariah told Deanna. "She's waiting upstairs." As they prepared to take Elijah up to his regular room, the boy reached out and caught Jordan's sleeve. "You'll still come tomorrow, right? You promised." Jordan's expression was solemn. "I keep my promises, Elijah." "And you won't be mad at my mom?" Deanna felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment, but Jordan just smiled. "Your mom and I still have things to discuss, but I'm not mad. Sometimes misunderstandings happen." "But if it wasn't you at the club that night," Deanna said softly as Elijah was wheeled toward the elevator, "then who was it?" Jordan's expression turned serious. "That's what I intend to find out." The pediatric wing of Portland Children's Hospital erupted into whispers as Michael Jordan stepped off the elevator. Nurses fumbled with clipboards, doctors did double takes, and patients, who were well enough to be in the hallway, stopped in their tracks. "Is that really Michael Jordan? What's he doing here tonight?" Deanna barely noticed the commotion. Her focus remained entirely on Elijah as Dr. Phillips, a stern-faced woman with kind eyes, examined him in his hospital room. "His blood pressure is too low," Dr. Phillips said, frowning at the monitor, "and his creatinine levels are elevated again. This little adventure didn't do his kidneys any favors." Deanna squeezed her son's hand. "I'm sorry. I had no idea he was going to leave the hospital." "Not your fault, Mom," Elijah mumbled, his eyes heavy with fatigue and medication. "Had to meet Jordan before." He didn't finish the sentence, but Deanna knew what he meant. Before something happened that might prevent it. Before he got worse. Before the chance was gone forever. "He needs rest," Dr. Phillips said, adjusting Elijah's IV. "And we'll need to increase his dialysis schedule to compensate for the strain on his kidneys." Jordan stood quietly in the corner of the room, Marcus beside him. They had followed Elijah's gurney up to the pediatric nephrology ward, drawing stares and whispers along the way. Thomas Powell appeared in the doorway, looking tense. "Michael, we need to get going. Your schedule tomorrow." "Can be adjusted," Jordan finished firmly. He turned to Dr. Phillips. "Is he going to be all right?" The doctor hesitated, glancing at Deanna before answering. For tonight, yes. But Elijah's condition is serious. He's on the transplant list, but finding a match hasn't been easy. How long has he been waiting? Jordan asked. 7 months, Deanna replied, her voice tight with emotion. His father wasn't a match. Neither was I. Jordan nodded thoughtfully. Is there anything I can do? Resources, specialists. We have excellent care here, Dr. Phillips assured him. But thank you. Elijah stirred on the bed, his eyes finding Jordan. You're still here, he said, sounding surprised. Told you I keep my promises, Jordan replied, with a gentle smile. But now you need to rest. I'll see you tomorrow. Wait, Elijah called, as Jordan turned to leave. Can you sign my jersey? Just in case. Just in case you don't come back tomorrow, was the unspoken fear. Jordan's expression softened. He took the marker Elijah's grandmother silently offered and signed the boy's jersey with a flourish. Get some sleep, champ. You'll need your energy for my visit tomorrow. As Jordan and his entourage prepared to leave, he paused at the door. Ms. Winters, could I speak with you outside for a moment? Deanna hesitated, looking back at Elijah, who had already drifted off to sleep. I should stay with him. I'll watch him, Vivian offered. You two clearly have things to discuss. In the quiet hallway, Deanna's earlier anger felt distant, replaced by confusion and a grudging sense of gratitude. Thank you for bringing him here, for being kind to him. Jordan nodded. He seems like a great kid, must take after his mother. Despite everything, Deanna felt herself blush slightly. Mr. Jordan. Michael, he corrected. Michael, she conceded. I've spent 15 years believing you were responsible for what happened to my partner, for what happened to my career. I understand that, and I want to help clear this up. Jordan looked around the busy hospital corridor. But not here, not now. Thomas approached, checking his watch pointedly. Michael, we really need to go. Give me your number, Jordan said to Deanna. I'll call you in the morning before I come for the official visit. Deanna hesitated, then recited her cell number, which Jordan entered into his phone. There's one more thing, Jordan said, lowering his voice. The nightclub incident. If you have any documentation, photos, police reports, anything from that night, I'd like to see it. Why? Because I think I might know who was there if it wasn't me. Before Deanna could ask what he meant, a nurse rushed up to them. Ms. Winters, Elijah's blood pressure is dropping again. Dr. Phillips needs you. Deanna's heart lurched. She turned without another word and raced back to her son's room, where alarms were beeping urgently. Dr. Phillips was already injecting something into Elijah's IV. What's happening? Deanna demanded, fear gripping her throat. His body is in distress, Dr. Phillips explained calmly but quickly. We're stabilizing him, but this episode is more serious than I initially thought. Deanna gripped the bedrail, watching her son's pale face. He looked so small, so vulnerable. Behind her, she could hear Jordan and his team being ushered away by hospital staff to give the medical team room to work. Is he going to? Deanna couldn't finish the sentence. We're doing everything we can, Dr. Phillips assured her. But I'm moving him up on the transplant list. His kidneys are failing faster than we anticipated. The next hour passed in a blur of medical terminology and quiet efficiency as the team worked to stabilize Elijah. Deanna remained by his side, holding his hand, whispering encouragements he couldn't hear. When the crisis finally passed, Dr. Phillips pulled Deanna aside. He's stable for now, But this was a warning sign we can't ignore. The strain of leaving. The hospital. The excitement. It was too much for his system. "How long does he have?" Deanna asked, the question she'd been dreading for months. "Without a transplant? Weeks? Maybe a month?" Dr. Phillips's voice was gentle but honest. "I'm sorry, Deanna." Vivian stood beside her daughter, arm around her shoulders for support. "We'll get through this. We always do." Deanna nodded numbly, her mind racing. For years, she'd channeled all her anger, all her pain, into blaming Michael Jordan for the loss of her career. Now, faced with potentially losing her son, that old grudge seemed insignificant, even if Jordan had been responsible, which he claimed he wasn't. Her phone buzzed with a text message. "Unknown number. This is Michael. If there's anything Elijah needs, anything at all, please let me know. I meant what I said about helping." Deanna stared at the message, emotions conflicting within her. Could she have been wrong all these years? And if Jordan wasn't responsible for what happened at Club Zenith, then who was? She glanced at Elijah's peaceful face, her priorities suddenly crystal clear. Finding the truth about that night in Chicago still mattered, but nothing mattered more than saving her son's life. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds of Elijah's hospital room, casting gentle stripes across his sleeping form. Deanna hadn't left his side all night, dozing occasionally in the uncomfortable visitor's chair. Her body ached from the awkward position, but she wouldn't have moved for anything. Her phone vibrated quietly in her pocket. Michael Jordan's number flashed on the screen. "Hello?" she answered softly, stepping into the hallway to avoid waking Elijah. "It's Michael. How is he?" The concern in Jordan's voice seemed genuine, making it harder for Deanna to cling to 15 years of anger. "Stable for now. They're increasing his dialysis and moving him up on the transplant list." "Good." Jordan paused. "I'm scheduled to visit the hospital at 11, but I was hoping we could talk privately before that. I've been doing some research about that night at Club Zenith." Deanna's heart quickened. "What kind of research?" "The kind that might explain who you actually saw that night." Another pause. "Do you have that photo you mentioned from your police file?" "Yes," Deanna admitted. She'd kept all the documentation from the incident, unable to let it go, even after leaving Chicago. "I have everything." "Can you meet me in the hospital cafe at 10? Bring whatever you have." Deanna glanced back at Elijah's room. "I don't want to leave him." "Just for 30 minutes, Jordan urged. "This is important, Deanna. For both of Ife. Us!" After a moment's hesitation, Deanna agreed. 10 o'clock. When she returned to Elijah's room, he was awake, looking pale but alert. "Was that Jordan?" he asked, having overheard part of her conversation. Deanna nodded. "He's still coming to visit today." A weak smile spread across Elijah's face. "Told you? He keeps his promises." "Yes, you did." Deanna sat on the edge of his bed. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got fouled hard, but I'm staying in the game," Elijah replied, using basketball terminology, as he often did. Deanna smiled despite her exhaustion. "That's my tough guy." "Mom," Elijah said, his expression turning serious, "are you going to tell me what happened in Chicago between you and Jordan?" Deanna took a deep breath. She'd been protecting Elijah from her past for so long that sharing it now felt strange. But he deserved to know. "I was a police officer there. A good one, I think." Why did you never tell me? Because it ended badly, and I didn't want you to. She struggled to find the right words. I didn't want you to think less of me for failing. You could never fail in my eyes, Elijah said, with a conviction that made Deanna's heart ache. She squeezed his hand. One night, my partner Ray and I responded to a disturbance at an upscale nightclub. The call mentioned a celebrity was involved. When we arrived, things escalated quickly. In the chaos, Ray was injured. His knee was shattered. He never returned to active duty. And you thought it was Michael Jordan? Elijah's eyes widened. I saw someone who looked like him. The club was dark. Everything happened so fast. Deanna sighed. When I tried to pursue charges, I hit walls everywhere. My superiors pressured me to drop it. When I refused, they made my life miserable until I finally resigned. But Jordan says it wasn't him. That's what he claims. Elijah studied his mother's face. Do you believe him? I'm not sure, Deanna admitted. For 15 years, I've been certain. Now, I don't know. He seems like a good person, Elijah offered. The way he helped last night. People can surprise you, Deanna acknowledged, sometimes in good ways. When Nurse Mariah arrived to check Elijah's vitals, Deanna used the opportunity to freshen up in the small bathroom. She splashed water on her face and stared at her reflection. The woman, looking back at her, seemed older than her 38. Years, worn down by single parenthood, financial struggles, and the constant worry about Elijah's health. For so long, she'd needed someone to blame for how her life had turned out. Michael Jordan had been the perfect target. Wealthy, successful, untouchable. But what if she'd been wrong? At 9:55, Deanna reluctantly prepared to leave for her meeting with Jordan. She'd retrieved a manila envelope from her car containing the documents she'd kept all these years, her original incident report, statements from witnesses, and most importantly, a grainy security camera photo that had captured the celebrity, leaving Club Zenith that night. I'll be back in 30 minutes, she promised Elijah. Grandma will stay with you. Are you going to meet Jordan? Elijah asked. Deanna nodded. He wants to discuss what happened in Chicago. I hope you two can work things out, Elijah said. It would be cool if my hero and my mom didn't hate each other. I don't hate him, Deanna said, surprising herself with the truth of the statement. Not anymore. The hospital cafe was busy with staff, patients, and visitors grabbing late breakfast or early coffee. Deanna spotted Jordan immediately. Even with a baseball cap pulled low, his height and presence were unmistakable. He sat at a corner table with his back to the wall, a security man positioned nearby but giving them space. Thank you for coming, Jordan said as she sat down across from him. I know you'd rather be with Elijah. I want answers, Deanna replied simply, placing the manila envelope on the table. Jordan nodded. So do I. He reached into his own jacket and pulled out a small photo album. But first, I need to show you something. He opened the album to a marked page and turned it toward Deanna. The photo showed Jordan at what appeared to be a charity golf tournament, according to the caption. He stood smiling beside another man who looked remarkably similar. Same height, similar features, same shaved head. This is my cousin Marcus Jordan, he explained. Not the Marcus who works with me now, a different Marcus, my father's brother's son. Deanna stared at the photo, her heart racing. The resemblance was striking. When was this taken? 15 years ago, around the same time as the Club Zenith incident. With trembling fingers, Deanna opened her envelope and extracted the grainy security camera photo. She placed it beside Jordan's picture. Even with the poor quality of the nightclub image, the similarities and differences were now apparent to her trained eye. The man leaving Club Zenith had the same build, same shaved head, but subtle differences in facial structure that she'd missed in the darkness and chaos of that night. "Your cousin," Deanna whispered, pieces falling into place. "He was at Club Zenith that night?" Jordan nodded grimly. "Marcus had issues back then, drinking problems, and he had a habit of implying he was me to get into exclusive places. Why didn't you come forward when an officer was injured?" "I didn't know." Jordan's voice was firm. "Marcus never told me about the incident. I only found out years later that he'd been impersonating me at clubs, and by then, you had already left." "Chicago. But surely the department knew it wasn't you," Deanna pressed. "Why pressure me to drop the case?" "Because it was easier than admitting they'd made a mistake," Jordan said simply. "A case of mistaken identity involving someone like me would have generated headlines, embarrassed the department. Celebrities get special treatment, Deanna, whether we want it or not." Deanna sat back, 15 years of certainty crumbling around her. All this time, she'd been blaming the wrong person. Her career, her life in Chicago. She'd lost it all because of a man who'd had nothing to do with what happened. "I'm sorry," Jordan said quietly, "for what you went through, for what your partner went through. If I had known—" "Where is he now?" Deanna cut in. "Your cousin?" "Marcus passed away 3 years ago. Liver failure." Jordan's expression was solemn. "He never got the help he needed." Deanna closed her eyes, absorbing this final twist. The man who had actually caused that night's chaos was beyond the reach of justice. "What happens now?" she asked, opening her eyes to find Jordan watching her intently. "That depends on you," he replied. "The past can't be changed, but the future is still unwritten." Deanna thought of Elijah upstairs, waiting for his hero to visit, fighting for his life with the same determination he admired in Jordan. For her son's sake, she needed to let go of the bitterness she'd carried for so long. "I think," she said, slowly, "it's time I stopped living in the past." Jordan's relief was visible. "I'm glad to hear that, because there's something else I want to discuss with you. Something about Elijah." "What about Elijah?" Deanna asked, immediately alert. Jordan leaned forward, lowering his voice. "My foundation works with children's hospitals across the country. We help fund treatments, research, special programs." "We don't need charity," Deanna interrupted, her pride flaring instinctively. Jordan held up a hand. "That's not what I'm offering. Hear me out." Deanna nodded reluctantly, and Jordan continued. "We partner with a specialized kidney treatment center in Chicago. They're conducting a clinical trial for a new procedure that might help Elijah. It's showing promising results for kids in his condition." Hope fluttered in Deanna's chest, but she tamped it down. She'd learned not to get excited about potential treatments. There had been too many disappointments. Dr. Phillips has explored all the options. If there was something new, she would know. "This trial just started accepting new patients last month," Jordan explained. "I called the director this morning. They'd need to review Elijah's medical records, but based on what I described, he might qualify." Deanna stared at her coffee cup, emotions churning. Part of her wanted to reject Jordan's help. Outright. It felt too much like pity, like he was trying to ease his own conscience for his cousin's actions. But a larger part, the mother in her, couldn't ignore anything that might help her son. "What would it involve?" she finally asked. "If he qualifies, you'd both need to go to Chicago for at least 3 months. The foundation would cover all expenses, medical costs, housing, travel, everything." "Chicago," Deanna repeated softly. The city she'd fled, vowing never to return. Jordan must have read her expression. "I know that's asking a lot, given your history there, but this could be Elijah's best chance." Before Deanna could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Where are you? Elijah's asking for you. The doctors are here." "I need to go," she said, gathering her documents. "Elijah's doctors are doing rounds." Jordan stood. "I understand. Think about what I said. Talk to Elijah's medical team. The foundation director's information is here." He handed her a business card. "And I'm still planning to visit the children's ward at 11. Deanna nodded, tucking the card into her pocket. "Thank you," she said, the words still feeling strange, when directed at a man she'd hated for so long. "For the information, and for—" she gestured vaguely at the security camera photo. "For clearing this up. 15 years is a long time to carry anger," Jordan observed. "What will you do now, without that weight on your shoulders?" The question caught Deanna off guard. Who was she without her grudge, her bitterness? What would fill that space? "I don't know," she admitted. "Focus on Elijah, I guess." "And after he gets better?" Jordan pressed gently. "You were a police officer once. A good one, from what I gather." "That life is behind me." "Is it? Or did? You just put it aside because you thought it was taken from you unfairly?" Deanna had no answer for that. She hadn't allowed herself to think about returning to law enforcement in years. The badge, the uniform, the sense of purpose. Those were ghosts of a past life. "I need to go," she repeated, and hurried away. Back in Elijah's room, Dr. Phillips was reviewing his latest test results with another physician. Elijah looked anxious, but brightened when Deanna entered. "Mom, Dr. Phillips says I'm stable enough for Jordan's visit." "That's great, honey," Deanna said, squeezing his hand before turning to the doctors. "How is he really?" Dr. Phillips's expression was measured. "The overnight treatment helped, but his kidney function is still declining. We need to find a donor match soon." "What about that clinic in Chicago?" Elijah asked. "Nurse Mariah was telling me about it. They're doing some new treatment." Deanna shot a questioning look at Mariah, who shrugged. "I was just telling him about advances in the field, keeping his spirits up." "Actually," Deanna said slowly, "I was just discussing that with someone. It might be an option, worth exploring." Dr. Phillips looked intrigued. "The Westlake Institute? They're doing groundbreaking work. If Elijah could get into their program." "Would it help him?" Deanna asked directly. "It could buy him time," Dr. Phillips said cautiously. "Maybe more than that, depending on how he responds. I can make some calls." Elijah watched this exchange with growing excitement. "Does this mean we might go to Chicago, where you used to live? Where you were a police officer?" Dr. Phillips raised an eyebrow. "You were in law enforcement?" "A lifetime ago," Deanna said dismissively. "Mom was the youngest female officer in her district," Elijah said proudly. "She just told me this morning. Isn't that cool?" The admiration in her son's eyes caught Deanna by surprise. All these years, she'd hidden her past out of shame, believing her failure would diminish her in Elijah's eyes. Instead, he saw only the accomplishment, the strength it had taken to enter a male-dominated field in the first place. "Your mother is full of surprises," Dr. Phillips said, with a smile. "Now, we should let Elijah rest before Mr. Jordan's visit." As the doctors left, Elijah tugged at Deanna's sleeve. "Did you and Jordan work things out? About what happened in Chicago?" Deanna nodded. "It was a case of mistaken identity. I saw someone who looked like him, but it wasn't actually Jordan. So he's not a bad guy after all," Elijah said, satisfaction in his voice. "No," Deanna admitted, "he's not." "Then you can be friends now," Elijah suggested, the simple logic of a child cutting through the complexities of adult grudges. Deanna smiled. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." When Jordan arrived at 11, the entire children's ward was buzzing with excitement. He spent time with each child, signing autographs, posing for photos, offering words of encouragement. Watching him from the doorway of Elijah's room, Deanna saw a different side of the man she'd vilified for years. Patient, kind, genuinely engaged with the children's stories. When he finally reached Elijah's room, her son was practically vibrating with excitement. "You really came." "I told you I keep my promises," Jordan said, settling into the chair beside the bed. He glanced at Deanna. "Your mom and I had a good talk this morning." "She told me it was all a big mix-up," Elijah said, "about what happened in Chicago." "Sometimes we see what we expect to see," Jordan said diplomatically. "But what matters is finding the truth eventually." As Jordan chatted with Elijah about basketball, favorite games, and training techniques, Deanna noticed something poking out from her son's pillowcase, the edge of a small object. When Elijah shifted, she caught a glimpse of metal. It was her old police badge from Chicago, the one keepsake she'd brought with her from her former life. She kept it in a box in her closet, hidden away like the memories it represented. Elijah must have found it while looking for his basketball cards. Instead of asking about it, he'd silently tucked it under his pillow, a talisman of the mother he hadn't known existed until yesterday, a piece of her past he wanted to keep close. Watching her son with his hero, Deanna realized Jordan had been right to ask what would fill the space her anger had occupied. Perhaps it was time to reclaim more than just her peace of mind. Perhaps it was time to reclaim her badge as well. 6 months had passed since the night at Appleton's when Deanna had refused to serve Michael Jordan. 6 months since the truth about the nightclub incident had come to light. 6 months since Jordan had offered to help Elijah get into the specialized treatment program in Chicago. Much had changed in that time. Deanna stood at the window of their temporary apartment in Eaton, Chicago, watching snow fall gently on the streets below. The city looked different through her eyes now, no longer a place of failure and bitter memories, but a place of hope and new beginnings. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Westlake. "Great news from this morning's tests. Can you come in at 2 p.m.? Deanna smiled, typing a quick reply before heading to Elijah's room. He sat propped up in bed, his color better than it had been in months, focused intently on a handheld game console, a gift from Jordan during one of his frequent visits to the treatment center. "Dr. Westlake wants to see us this afternoon," Deanna said, sitting on the edge of his bed. "Says he has good news." Elijah looked up, hope brightening his eyes. "Maybe I'm finally in remission?" "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," Deanna cautioned, though she shared his optimism. The experimental treatment had shown promising results over the past months. Elijah's kidney function had stabilized, then gradually improved. He still needed monitoring and medication, but the immediate danger had passed. "Michael's coming by later," Elijah said, returning to his game. The basketball star had long since become simply Michael to him, a friend rather than just a hero. He's bringing some of his foundation people to talk to the other kids. The Jordan Children's Health Foundation had not only helped Elijah access the trial treatment, but had expanded its support to other families at the Westlake Institute, watching Jordan work. Tirelessly for children he'd never met before, had shifted Deanna's perception of the man even further. "I have news too," Deanna said, gathering her courage. "I've made a decision." Elijah set down his game, giving her his full attention. "About the job offer?" Deanna nodded. 3 weeks ago, she'd received an unexpected call from the Chicago Police Department. They were establishing a new community outreach division focused on rebuilding trust between officers and the neighborhoods they served. Someone, Deanna suspected. Jordan, though he denied involvement, had submitted her name as a potential candidate. Given her history with the department, the offer had been both surprising and complicated. "I'm going to accept," she said. "Part-time at first, while you're still in treatment. Then we'll see." Elijah's face lit up. "You're going to be Officer Mercer again." "Winters," Deanna corrected with a smile. "I'll keep our name. Too much paperwork. Otherwise." "Officer Winters," Elijah tested the words. "Sounds good to me." Later that afternoon, they sat in Dr. Westlake's office, listening as he explained Elijah's latest test results. "The treatment has exceeded our expectations," the doctor said, his usual professional demeanor brightened by genuine pleasure. "Elijah's kidney function has improved to a level where dialysis is no longer necessary, and the cellular regeneration we were hoping for has begun." "What does that mean for his long-term prognosis?" Deanna asked, squeezing Elijah's hand. "It means," Dr. Westlake said, choosing his words carefully, "that while he's not completely out of the woods, we don't believe he'll need a transplant in the immediate future. With continued treatment and monitoring, he has an excellent chance of leading a normal life." Tears welled in Deanna's eyes. After months of uncertainty, of preparing herself for the worst, while hoping for the best, the relief was overwhelming. "Can I play basketball?" Elijah asked, his priorities clear. Dr. Westlake laughed. "Not competitively just yet, but some light shooting around. I think we can work toward that." As they left the clinic, a sleek black car waited at the curb. The driver stepped out and opened the door, revealing Michael Jordan in the back seat. "I hear congratulations are in order," he said with a wide smile. "You heard already?" Deanna asked, surprised. "I might have asked Dr. Westlake to keep me updated," Jordan admitted. "Get in. We're celebrating." The car took them to a community center in a neighborhood Deanna recognized from her days on the force. Inside, a crowd of people waited. Children from the treatment center and their families, medical staff from the Westlake Institute, and representatives from Jordan's foundation. "What is all this?" Deanna asked, overwhelmed by the surprise gathering. Jordan guided them to the front of the room. "Today isn't just about celebrating Elijah's progress, though that's the best news we could have hoped for," he addressed the assembled crowd. "Today, the Jordan Foundation is announcing a new initiative, the Elijah Winters Kidney Research Fund, dedicated to expanding access to the treatment that helped this young man." Applause filled the room as Elijah blushed, unused to being the center of attention. "But there's more," Jordan continued, turning to Deanna. "We're also launching a community partnership program with the Chicago PD's new outreach division, a program that will be led by returning Officer Deanna Winters. More applause, along with surprised looks from Deanna and Elijah. "I haven't officially accepted yet," Deanna whispered to Jordan. "I had a feeling you would," he replied with a wink. "Once a cop, always a cop." As the celebration continued, around them, Deanna felt a sense of completion she hadn't experienced in years. The journey from that rainy night at Club Zenith to this moment had been long and painful, filled with false assumptions and missed opportunities. But somehow, against all odds, it had led her back to the path she was meant to follow. "Officer Winters," Jordan said quietly, handing her a small box. "I believe this belongs to you." Inside was her old badge, polished and mounted in a display case alongside a new one, Chicago PD, Community Outreach Division, Officer Deanna Winters. "How did you get this?" she asked, touching the case reverently. "Elijah," Jordan answered simply. "He thought you might need it again someday." Deanna looked across the room at her son, surrounded by new friends, his face glowing with health and happiness. The badge in her hands represented not just her past, but a future she'd never imagined possible. One where old wounds healed, second chances appeared when least expected, and heroes turned out to be just people after all. Flawed, complicated, but capable of extraordinary kindness. "Thank you," she said to Jordan, meaning it more deeply than ever before. 6 months later, spring had arrived in Chicago, bringing with it new beginnings. Elijah stood on the community center basketball court, carefully dribbling the ball with a concentration that made his tongue stick out slightly from the corner of his mouth, a habit from childhood that persisted even as he approached his 13th birthday. "Square your shoulders more," Michael Jordan instructed, demonstrating the proper shooting form. "Follow through with your wrist. That's it." Elijah released the ball, watching with bated breath as it arced toward the hoop. It circled the rim, once, twice, then dropped through the net. "Yes," Elijah pumped his fist in victory. "Did you see that, Mom?" Deanna smiled from the sidelines, where she sat reviewing paperwork for the youth outreach program she now supervised. "Nice shot, kiddo." The past year had transformed both their lives in ways neither could have imagined that night at Appleton's restaurant. Elijah's health had stabilized enough that doctors classified him as in remission, though he still required regular checkups and medication. Deanna had fully embraced her return to law enforcement, her experience and compassion making her ideal for her new role building bridges between police and the community. And Michael Jordan had become a fixture in their lives. Mentor to Elijah, colleague to Deanna through his foundation's work, and eventually a friend to them both. "That's enough for today," Jordan said, noticing Elijah's slightly labored breathing. "Don't want to overdo it." Elijah nodded reluctantly. Though stronger than he'd been in years, he still had limits that frustrated his teenage ambition. "There's a foundation event tonight," Jordan reminded them. "Black tie. You both coming?" "Wouldn't miss it," Deanna replied. The gala was celebrating the first anniversary of the Elijah Winters Kidney Research Fund, which had already helped dozens of children access the experimental treatment that had saved her son. As Jordan left for another appointment, Elijah joined his mother on the bench. "He's different than I thought he'd be," he observed, "when I just knew him from posters and TV." "How so?" Deanna asked, curious about her son's perspective. "He's more human, I guess." Elijah struggled to find the right words. "Like, he makes mistakes and admits them. He doesn't pretend to be perfect." Deanna nodded, understanding. That's what makes a real hero, in my opinion. Not being flawless, but owning up to your flaws and trying to do better. Like you did, Elijah said simply, going back to being a police officer, even though it was scary. Deanna's heart swelled with love for her perceptive son. It was scary, still is sometimes. They gathered their things and headed home to change for the evening's event. Their apartment, provided initially by Jordan's foundation, was now their own. A modest but comfortable space not far from the precinct where Deanna worked. Photos lined the walls, Elijah in his hospital room, surrounded by basketball memorabilia. Deanna in her new uniform, both of them with Jordan at the treatment center, and a recent addition, Elijah shooting baskets, his face healthy and flushed with exertion. As Deanna adjusted her rarely worn dress uniform for the gala, a text arrived from Jordan. "Car will pick you up at 7. Also, there's someone I want you to meet tonight." The foundation gala was held at one of Chicago's most elegant hotels. Celebrities, medical professionals, and major donors mingled in a ballroom decorated with the foundation's colors. Elijah, handsome in his first suit, stayed close to his mother, still shy in large crowds despite his growing confidence. "There, you are," Jordan greeted them, resplendent in a custom tuxedo. "There's someone I have been wanting to introduce you to." He guided them toward a distinguished-looking man in a wheelchair near the bar. "Ray, these are the Winters I've been telling you about. Deanna and Elijah." The man turned, and Deanna froze. Though older, grayer, the face was unmistakable. "Ray Donovan," she whispered, hardly believing her eyes. Her former partner from Chicago PD, the one injured that fateful night at Club Zenith, sat before her. "Hello, Dee," Ray said, using her old nickname with a warm smile. "It's been a long time." "You two know each other?" Jordan asked, though his slight smile suggested he already knew. The answer: "Ray was my partner," Deanna explained to Elijah, "the one I told you about. From that night." Ray extended his hand. "Water under the bridge. Jordan here tracked me down, told me what really happened, about his cousin and all that." "You're working with the foundation now?" Deanna asked, noticing the Jordan Foundation pin on Ray's lapel. "Consulting on their security protocols for events like this," Ray confirmed. "Keeps me in the game, so to speak." As Ray and Elijah struck up a conversation about basketball, Jordan drew Deanna aside. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "I've owed it to you for a while now." Deanna looked at him quizzically. "For what? You've done nothing but help us since we met." "That's not entirely true." Jordan's expression turned serious. "After we talked at the hospital. That first time, I did some investigating. I found out who was actually at Club Zenith that night." "Your cousin Marcus," Deanna said. "You told me months ago." "Yes, but what I didn't tell you was that I knew about his impersonations before that night." Jordan's admission hung in the air between them. Not the specifics, not about any incident with police, but I knew he was using my name to get into clubs. I confronted him once, but I didn't follow up. I didn't want family drama. So when Ray was injured, if I'd been more diligent, reported Marcus's behavior, it might never have happened. Jordan met her eyes directly. "Your partner might never have been hurt. You might never have lost your badge." Deanna absorbed this revelation, surprised, to find it didn't rekindle her old anger. "We all have regrets, Michael. Things we wish we'd done differently." "I've tried to make amends," Jordan continued, "with Ray, with you and Elijah, but I should have told you the whole truth sooner." Before Deanna could respond, a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. A hotel security guard was arguing with someone trying to enter the gala. "Officer Winters," the security supervisor called, spotting her uniform. "Could you assist? There's an incident." Deanna excused herself and hurried over. Though officially off duty, her instincts kicked in immediately. As she assessed the situation, a misunderstanding about credentials, she felt a familiar calm competence wash over her. This was who she was meant to be all along. Within minutes, she'd resolved the issue and was returning to Jordan and her son when her phone rang. The precinct captain's name flashed on the screen. "Winters," she answered professionally. "Sir, I'm at the Foundation event tonight." "I know where you are," the captain cut in. "But I need you for something urgent. There's a situation developing downtown involving a high-profile visitor. Given your experience with the community program and VIP relations, you're the officer I want on scene." Deanna glanced back at her son, happily chatting with Ray Donovan, and at Jordan, who watched her with an expression of understanding. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, she told her captain. As she ended the call, Jordan approached. "Duty calls?" "Something." "Downtown," Deanna confirmed. "I need to go." "I'll make sure Elijah gets home safely," Jordan promised. "Ray, too." Deanna nodded gratefully. "Thank you for everything." As she strode through the glittering ballroom back straight, confidence in every step, Deanna felt the weight of her badge against her chest. Not a burden anymore, but a reminder of who she truly was, who she had always been, beneath the pain and bitterness. She paused at the door, looking back one last time. Elijah had joined a group of kids his age, laughing at something one of them said. He caught her eye and gave a small nod of understanding. He knew she had to go, and he was proud of her for it. Michael Jordan raised his glass in a silent toast to her. Beside him, Ray Donovan smiled with the same approval he'd shown 15 years ago when she'd been a rookie under his wing. As Deanna stepped out into the Chicago night, ready to face whatever challenge awaited, she realized the badge beneath her jacket wasn't just a piece of metal. It was a symbol of coming full circle, of finding her way back to herself through the most unexpected journey, one that had begun with a simple refusal to serve Michael Jordan. And that's the story of how a simple refusal to serve Michael Jordan changed 3 lives forever. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below, whether you're in Portland, Chicago, or somewhere across the world. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing these tales of redemption, forgiveness, and unexpected kindness. Speaking of which, if you enjoyed The Badge Beneath the Jersey, you'll definitely want to click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another emotional journey that will leave. Hope you inspired. Remember, sometimes the greatest changes in our lives come from the most unexpected encounters. Spread kindness today.